I'm going to show you in this video how to win on Polymarket. I'm also going to show you a real life glitch where you can actually make guaranteed money. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this is what Polymarket looks like once you log in. When you log in, you're going to see a bunch of stuff all over the place. Alright, so for us, a lot of times what we're going to want to navigate to is we're going to want to navigate to sports. Okay, so if we go over to sports here, now you'll see a list on the left hand side of a bunch of stuff that's going on. Alright, now this account that I'm showing you right now is a view only account. Reason why is because where I'm at, they are currently in about like an argument of if they're going to be able to let Polymarket go here. They let it go for like 5 days and then they cut it out, but they're in the middle of doing that, so I can only show you guys in the view only section of how to do this. Okay, but like I said, this is actually pretty cool what I'm going to show you, because there is a way to actually make guaranteed money because there's a glitch, and hopefully once this video goes out it doesn't ruin it, but you know, you could take advantage of it for whoever sees this firsthand. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But when you go to sports, you go down the left hand side here. This is where you can adjust, you know, what sports you want to look at. For example, here's the Super Bowl, and what it does is, you know, a lot of people don't understand maybe what this means by cents wise. 32 cents, 69 cents. Well, those are your odds. Okay, that's pretty much your odds. So what it's saying here is like pretty much percentage. If you do implied probability percentage, this is kind of where it lines up at. So right now 69 cents we got for Seattle money line. So, you know, if you wanted to do 5,000 on Seattle money line, well, there you go. Okay, what that pays out is pretty much near the implied probability of 69%. So it's about like minus 240-ish right off the top of my head, just kind of looking at the numbers there. That's about what it pays out. But yeah, that's how you judge. You know, there are, like, kalshi has different settings to where you could make it to where it actually shows like sports betting lines rather than cents. But the crazy thing about Polymarket and these peer-to-peer ones are the limits. There really is none. So for example, let's look at this game, the Super Bowl here. Okay, if we could go all the way up to, look, 50,000, 500,000, 5 million, you could go up to $5 million. Okay, $5 million to where you can get a payout of $5.9 million. So most sports books, they wouldn't allow you to put down money like that. Okay, the reason why you can here is because what you're doing is you're consuming everybody else's money that put money on New England. So that's really all you're doing. You're just consuming everybody else's money. So if you were to put this bet in for $5 million, it would drastically change the line right here for Seattle, obviously. Okay, it would jump this completely up. But you can't do this at normal sports books. Like, you can't log into DraftKings and go put $5 million on a team. You just can't do it. All right? That's what's good about these peer-to-peer networks, because you can literally go and have no limit. And you can go and place the whatever amount of money that you really want on any given game. As long as there's a good volume of trades being done within that game, then you're able to put as much as you want. So it's really actually pretty cool. So a lot of this stuff that's on here you don't have to pay attention to. Okay, like you see all this right here. This is stuff that reminisces like day trading. Okay, and you're looking at certain trades here of how much people bought at certain numbers, and you don't really need to pay too much attention to it. Okay, there's really no reason to go there and siphon through and see exactly what's going on. What you want to pay attention to is the volume, okay, which is the total here. You want to know how much money is being put in on that game, because, for example, you can't do this at every single game if there's not enough money being put on it. So let's go to like a random college basketball game here. Alright, so if we go to a random college basketball game, and let's click this one right here, 89 cents UMBC. So if we try to do the same thing there, as we could see, 5,000, it'll let us do that. If we go up to 50,000, it cuts our odds. Okay, our odds start getting cut, because now look, if you go $500,000, you're getting the same payout as if you were getting $50,000 on that bet. Okay, and it doesn't allow you to do it because look, at $50,000, you put $50,000 down, you would win $17,000, which means this is not plus your 50. You would just win 17,000. You would lose money. Okay, that's because there's not enough money being put in the pool there. So if you go to 5,000 here, you would end up making, right now it's currently changing, but you'd make a little bit over 300 bucks. Now that's what happens when there's not enough money being put on that matchup. So there has to be a volume. Okay, if there's no volume that's being put in that game, you can't wager as much as you want. Okay, because like I just said, right there, you can't go 50,000. You could go 5,000. That's about the limit on that game there. Because look at the amount of money that's being traded on the game. Not a crazy amount. Okay, can't go into the hundreds of thousands or 50,000s when there's not that volume that's being traded in there. But again, that's just like money line betting. So let's go back to the NFL here so we can kind of go through that, so that way you guys can see that you don't have to just bet the money line, because you have the spread here and you have the total, and then you can click on the matchup here and it gives you other stuff. So look, if we go down here, you'll have game lines. You can adjust some of the lines here. Okay, you can move some of the stuff that you want. First half, you can adjust the first half totals here. Okay, even props. So if we go to like rushing, you see the rushing yards, we have over-unders on rushing yards, all that good stuff. So you can literally bet your props, everything on here. But again, like I said, it has to have the volume to be able to do that. Okay, so for example, let's go ahead and take a look at AJ Barner. For his rushing yards, him have 1 rushing yard. The volume on that is only $87. Okay, so you're not gonna be able to wager too much money here. Like that's the average volume that's coming through. So you'd only be able to wager as much as what's in the pool. Which, as you can see in the pool here, if you added these all up, you know, you're getting 6, 1,000, 14, probably close to almost 3,000 that's in here. Okay, which is in the total pool. So like I said, like if you put $5,000 down, you can't do that because you'd be losing $4,200 if that won. All right, you could do 500 bucks, but it just matters what's in there. And $87 on volume means that not too many people are betting this on the over or the under as of right now. Now, obviously, closer to game time and stuff, that stuff would change. But that's some stuff that you have to literally keep an eye out for, because you can't just go bet randomly a prop and think you're going to get $5,000 or $10,000 down, because that's not going to work necessarily if there's no volume with the trading. But it's pretty cool that you can go and have all these props and stuff like that as well, because honestly, with other sports books, when it comes to limiting and stuff like that, they do want to limit you heavy on props. And between the peer-to-peer ones now, you know, the Polymarkets, the kalshis, you're able to go on there and get your props. And what I don't like about Polymarket is that you can't adjust the props on here. As kalshi, you can adjust the props. You can literally do alternate lines on all these props. Polymarket doesn't really want you to do that. Okay, they don't really have that stuff. But again, that's just the NFL. You know, you can go to the NBA. Same thing here in the NBA. Click the NBA. You can move the lines of what you want for the spreads, for the total, first half. You got those bets, and you got the props here: points, assists, rebounds. Again, same thing though. Like, I don't really like that you can't move the line. You're basically getting the line at what it is at the sports book. That's pretty much what they throw down here. But still, it's pretty cool to have an option to be able to jump on here and do that type of stuff. Okay, because like I said, regular sports books, they do limit you when you start winning, and at least on these type of networks, you're not going to get limited, because all you're doing is consuming other people's money that's put in there. You're not taking Polymarket's money. You're taking other people's money that thought differently than what you are betting on. So again, the options are crazy. Like, they give you a ton of options here. Like, look, college basketball, NHL, UFC, football, probably meaning any type of football, NFL, college football, basketball, you got all that stuff, esports, if you need to bet on stuff like that, you got golf, Formula One, all that stuff. So pretty cool. Now, one thing I do want to discuss is there's a way, and there's a glitch on these peer-to-peer networks on a certain play, and it's not in sports. Okay, What it is, if you go up here, and let's say for example right here, what will Trump say during NBC's interview? If you go and you click on this, okay, any interview that they do, a live interview of any sort, what they do is they'll give you options on what is being said in that interview. Okay, so as you can see here, these are lines that are going to be set. This is already over with, so it doesn't look exactly like this, but what it looks like, let me see if I can pull one up for you guys. If there's any other type of interview that's going down. Yeah, let's look at this one. Now let's keep rolling for something else here. Interview. Alright, so there's none really popping up, coming up here. But when there is, so what you can do is you can go on and you can literally bet on what they're going to say. Okay, like is he going to be able to say millions, billions, or trillions 10 plus times? Is he going to say tariff 7 plus times? Is he going to say Supreme Court, mortgage? Is he going to say that in the interview? So here's what the crazy thing is. All right, so when this goes live, usually it'll go live on the East Coast, okay? And on the West Coast, people obviously don't see this until 3 hours after the interview is put out on the East Coast, okay? Because West Coast is 3 hours behind, right? So what happens here is, as of late, people don't realize what time this interview actually started, and they don't understand that the interview is already over, and you're just seeing a rerun on the West Coast. So people on the West Coast are going and betting certain things on what he's going to say or what the person that's getting interviewed is going to say, and it's already over. So what you could do is when it's already over, all you do is go watch the interview that happened on the East Coast, and you know exactly what they're going to say and what they're not going to say. And you go and you literally scalp exactly where people are betting no, even though the person said yes, and the person actually said what, you know, was listed on here. You go and you say no. Now you're not going to make a crazy amount of money, okay? $100 might get you $5. It might get you $10, maybe $20, but it's guaranteed money because the interview is already over. But people on the West Coast that are just throwing money and throwing cash on here don't realize that it's already over, and they think that it's going to air, you know, on the West Coast, that's going to be live. So they go and they're betting random stuff on here of what he's going to say in that interview, and you're able to literally scalp money by making $5, $10 here on each one that he doesn't even say in in the interview because it's already over and you could have already watched that interview. So some people don't recognize that, and they're just betting, you know, random stuff, and you can literally go scalp and take their dollars here and there, $5, $10, $20, and you can do that multiple times, and it's guaranteed money because the outcome already ended. So that's just something that's pretty crazy that I've seen, and I actually did it a couple times already, and literally they pay you out guaranteed money on it. They pay you out, and there's no way to lose because it's already over. You already knew what the outcome was. So that's another crazy thing though about these peer-to-peer markets, is a lot of this type of stuff, like the politics stuff, the crypto, the finance. The thing is like a lot of insider trading can happen within all of this, okay? And that is where you could take advantage of a lot of stuff that's within here, okay? Just like I just showed you with the live interviews, where the time difference, some people don't realize the time difference, and guess what happens? You could take advantage of that, and you could scalp money left and right, and you could start making a $5, $10 here and there. Like, yeah, it's not going to be a crazy amount of money, but it's guaranteed money, okay? No reason not to do it when it's guaranteed money. But that's what the cool thing is about some of these peer-to-peer networks. Now, as for the future, I don't know how these are going to be sticking around, if they're going to be, you know, completely legal everywhere. Like I said, Polymarket's struggling right now in the US, where it's made it legal certain places, but then it gets pulled, but then it's legal again, then it gets pulled. Kalshi, they're 100% legal everywhere in the US. So, you know, it's really comes down to, for me, it's the limiting. Okay, when you don't get limited, that's the best thing. All right, and that's why these are so beneficial. especially when you can go and alternate certain numbers and stuff like that. But definitely enjoy the peer-to-peer networks and how this stuff works, because yeah, you could take advantage of multiple different ways of making money through this. And it takes a little bit of a day trading background to kind of understand how it works, but you don't necessarily need to. And the thing is like I said, when you have options just like that, one thing I just told you for the interviews to make guaranteed money, you hop on that because it's free money. Why wouldn't you? Okay? But that is how you use Polymarket to be able to make money for yourself and to be able to use this as another platform where you will not get limited at.